stands. I'm Mark Goldbridge, and this is your latest Manchester United news. It's July the 1st, and things are kicking off as we predicted they would. 2 deals done already. So we'll be talking about Dan Ashworth. That's completed. That's really big positive news this morning. We're also going to be talking about a contract that's been done with Ligt. We'll talk about the latest that's going on with other players as well. But we did say yesterday that in relation to Manchester United, this would be the week where it does kick off. And certainly, I think it's going to happen. I think there is some people out there that have been tainted and damaged by the last 10 years under the Glazers. And, you know, they get panicky about we're not doing stuff. But look, as I said yesterday, as I said last week, from today was always going to be the day where things start to kick off. You've got the new kit coming out. You've got your director of football in place. You've got a Ligt deal that could overtake Xerxes and happen before that. I mean, the Ligt deal is sort of coming up on the outside here compared to Agate and Xerxes and Branthwaite. We'll talk about that. Look, I take it on board. There's people very, very, very doubtful about the Ligt deal, and we can talk about that. But the cold, harsh fact is it's coming in from the Netherlands. Mike Verwey, who we remember from the Ten Hag days, saying that a 5-year deal is done in relation to Ligt. There's still a transfer fee to be completed with Bayern Munich, but we know they want to sell. The player wants to come to Manchester United. It's a 5-year deal. What the wages will be, I take it on board. You know, is there an element of risk? I take it on board. But can we just please remember that this is a new Manchester United? This is not what I wanted. I wanted a full sale. I wanted the Glazers out, but we didn't get that. And INEOS have made noises that they're going to be different. And in the absence of any other alternative, I am seeing different activity. You know, I think that even when you think about the Ten Hag thing, some of you wanted Ten Hag to go, most of us didn't. I think that's been proven correct as well. Because you look at the decision to keep Eric Ten Hag and then you look at the alternatives. I mean, you look at that Pratt who's in charge of England. I mean, that would have been a huge mistake of epic proportions. De Zerbi's busy managing Marseille, and Tuchel and Pochettino are sat on a beach reading a book because no one else wants them. So I think United at the moment are making some really interesting decisions. And I said to you yesterday, 3 deals this week. Well, we've got 1 done already, and that's the director of football who starts work today. That's the big update. So David Ornstein will talk about what's happening with Ligt. There is an agreement around a contract with him. So it's not here we go with Bayern yet, but the player. And I think the hardest bit about the Ligt deal is what you do with the player on 250 grand a week, what sort of deal you do with that. But what we have got here is, first of all, is a drop from David Ornstein, which has been confirmed by Fabrizio, but Ornstein dropped it, to be fair, that Manchester United have completed a deal with our new director of football, Dan Ashworth. Now, I think it's interesting that this gets announced on the morning at 8 o'clock of July the 1st. The significance of July the 1st is not actually taken on board by as many people as it should do. The whole new financial year is massive. And, you know, Man United have clearly done a deal with Newcastle and Dan Ashworth before July the 1st. And it's been announced on July the 1st, mutually. But we've done that deal before today, whether it was last night, the day before, because that money that they're getting goes into their last year accounts. That's come out from the story that's come out. So this whole profit and sustainability stuff, whatever we've paid Newcastle has gone to them before July the 1st to go into their accounts for last year. And I think we've agreed collectively to not announce it till today, which is why it's come out at 8 o'clock on July the 1st. The significance of that is I don't care. I think this is a really big bonus because where we've been with Dan Ashworth since February is that he's going to be our director of football. And what that means for all the signings we're making is huge because he now has a footprint from today on everything we do in and out, and he can get to work. Now, look, I'll put my hands up and say, I think many of you were right saying that he will have been doing stuff behind the scenes, but he's had to be very, very careful about that. But from today, he's there and he's working away. And look, I'm very pleased because I think the whole Newcastle-Manchester United thing, there seems to be, certainly from Newcastle fans, this desire to turn us into a rival. We've got our rivals. Our rivals are Liverpool. You know, Leeds a little bit, Man City a little bit, Arsenal a little bit, not Newcastle. So we don't want that rivalry. You're not our rival. your director of football's at Man United now. You'll get another director of football. Let's just do our own thing. And I think amicably we've sorted this out. We will have paid a lot of money for him. I've heard it's around 10 million. Could be a bit more, could be a bit less. We will have paid about 10 million for Dan Ashworth because ultimately, if we'd have waited and gone to court, it was a bad thing for two reasons. First of all, we would have lost. We would have had to pay money because he is on gardening leave and he did do an email between him and Barada. But secondly, we'll save a load of money having a director of football for the next few weeks anyway, selling and doing deals. So, look, very, very pleased that Dan Ashworth is here. Is he going to be a good director of football? Look, he comes with a good pedigree. Obviously, there's some people concerned about relationships with Southgate, etc. But, you know, it doesn't matter what his relationship is with Southgate. If Southgate manages any Premier League club, I think there'll be protests. So I don't think we need to worry about that. This is about Manchester United. This is about what INEOS wanted to do. And ultimately, I want a manager who gets what he wants and an owner that gets what they want. Because if they fail with what they want, at least they got what they wanted. And I think that the breaking news is that Dan Ashworth is our director of football from today. And if you'd have said that yesterday, I would have been, well, you know, that's a really big positive move because it was sounding like he wouldn't be involved at all. And actually he's going to be involved for the next 2 months. So yes, Dan Ashworth, new director of football, Manchester United, starts today, confirmed by David Ornstein and Fabrizio Romano. We've probably paid about 10 million, but ultimately we've probably overpaid by about 20 million on about 10 transfers over the last 5 years. So a proper director of football can certainly change this around. Now, the second bit of big news this morning is that the Ligt deal is very much on the road to being done and very much on the road to being done quick. Now, I would say here that I don't know when Barada starts Melps. It's certainly in the next few days. Get in, great news, says John. Ethan, welcome to the members club. Feeling positive, Mark. It's nice to get the ball rolling and start seeing change happening. Fingers crossed this new regime sorts the player power out, says Jake. Stephen Roos as well. Thank you, welcome to the members club. And Rory says, do we realise how slow he is? His top sprint last season ranks him 280th in the Premier League alongside Chris Wood, says Rory C. We'll talk about De Ligt in a moment, but I'm not having this nonsense that he's slow. I'm really, really not. But I think that when it comes to... we've also got some comments from Rasmus on Ten Hag staying as well. But I think when it comes to Manchester United, there are going to be people who have this legacy negativity. I understand it. But I can only feed what I feel positively from what I hear, from what I see. And I think that this next 2 weeks are going to be, you know, fasten your seatbelts. Like, you're not going to have an opportunity to listen to the negative people because you're going to get excited by what's going on. Like, fact, it's day 1 of July, we've got a director of football. It's day 1 of July and we've agreed a contract with De Ligt. It's a 5-year deal. So the breaking news around De Ligt, and it's coming in from numerous sources here, but basically Mike Verwey, who is a journalist out in the Netherlands and a very, very good one at that, he basically puts something out last night saying that Manchester United had agreed a deal with De Ligt around a contract of 5 years. So if I could just read it out exactly word for word for you so you've got it. Basically, here it is. Manchester United have made a 5-year contract proposal to De Ligt and his entourage, and it's expected that a full agreement around wages and everything will be reached in the short term. United now are in talks about a transfer fee with Bayern Munich. Erik ten Hag has held several telephone conversations with the player, and De Ligt is waiting on an agreement between both clubs now. So basically what we're at is personal terms agreed with De Ligt. A 5-year deal is a big deal. Look, I'm not going to be the whole point of this community, the original goats. You know, we've been doing this for 10 years. There's pretenders, there's new people, whatever. They do their thing, get in your lane. It's absolutely fine. It's hard work, well done. But we've been doing this for 10 years. And I'm not going to start changing the way we do things. We have to listen and we have to be pragmatic. And some people do want Greenwood back in this community and some people don't. And that's the whole point. You have a conversation. I can't sit here and say that De Ligt on a 5-year deal, when I know he's on 250 grand a week at Bayern, doesn't concern me. Like, of course it does. You know, I'd be a bloody idiot. What if we signed De Ligt and he's an absolute disaster? And it's very obvious he's a disaster in the first season. You've got another 4 years of a player that can't be sold anywhere because he's already played in Serie A and he's already played in the Bundesliga and now he's failed in the Premier League and he's on 250 grand a week. No one's going to buy him. So this deal has to work. If we get him on a 5-year deal and he's good, doesn't matter what you pay him, he's here for the rest of his career. And it's brilliant, but it's got to work. Like, there's no wiggle room on this. This deal has to work. And I'll tell you what, I get it. I get the concerns because we as football fans should just get excited about signings. You know, some summers we've hardly bought anybody. So we should just be excited that we're buying a centre-back. And it's Ligt. You know, he's a good centre-back and we should be excited about that. But over the last 10 years, we've become more than football fans. We've become very aware of debt, stupid wages, stupid contracts. So we're aware of that because we get fed that. So you can't moan at United fans who say, I'm a bit concerned that we're buying another player on a huge contract, on a huge wage, and if this goes wrong, we're stuck with this player on massive wages, messing, FFP, etc. up. So you've got to take that into account. Of course you have. A 5-year deal. Who knows what the wages are? Because we don't know the wages at the moment, but we know at Bayern Munich he's on 250 grand a week. There is a risk there. Of course there is a risk. He doesn't even start for the Dutch. Eric Dyer was starting for him ahead of Bayern Munich. So, of course there is that. But what I want to say is, this is not John Murta and Erik ten Hag doing this deal. And if it was, I'd be more nervous. Now, I trust Erik ten Hag. I want him to be the manager. But what I've always said about ten Hag is, and I'd say about any manager is, whether it's Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, Ancelotti, you've got to have good people above them because they're not perfect. Sir Alex Ferguson bought Jemba and Cleverson and Obertan and crap. He bought a lot of crap. All clubs do that. You need a team above you. And what people don't realise here is it's not Erik ten Hag demanding De Ligt. If it is, INEOS may as well go now. This is Barada. This is Wilcox. This is Brailsford, this is Blanc, this is now Ashworth, sat there going, are we signing this deal off? And if we are signing this deal off, then it's not Ten Hag, it's Barada, it's Ashworth, it's Blanc, it's Wilcox, and it's Brailsford. So you can feel nervous about it, and I'm acknowledging why you are, but don't start pinning this on, oh, it's the same old shit. That world doesn't exist anymore. I think some people think they're going in to watch a film that they watched last week and it's a different film. You cannot start saying, oh, it's the same old mistakes as before, because this is a new regime and it's a very, very, very big room. Like, there's a lot of people in that room now. It's not John Murta and bloody Richard Arnold. There are specialists in that room. And they have signed off De Ligt, and they have done the work on De Ligt, and they've signed off Xerxes, and they've signed off Agate, and they've signed off Branthwaite. So when you look at these players, we need to wake up and realise that these players now, yes, Ten Hag has got to make them work, but INEOS take the credit because they've done the work, the injury, the wages, the contract, the scouting, the recruitment. This is dealt with by INEOS now. This is not Glazer. This is not Woodward. This is not Murta. And this is not Arnold. This is INEOS's summer transfer window. And however you rank it, and the positives and the negatives, this is what it is now. Ten Hag does not have the power to say, shut up Wilcox, shut up Barada, shut up Ashworth, shut up Sir Jim, go and get me De Ligt. That's not the world we're operating in now. So beware of the toxic. Beware of the haters, beware of the negative, because, a good signing will be INEOS and a signing they don't like will be Ten Hag, and that world doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. So, if you're tuning in a little bit late, Dan Ashworth is our new director of football from today, and more importantly, he starts work today. We've probably paid about 10 million to Newcastle, but we'll make that up. We need him in place because I want to see players going out the door as much as they're coming in the door. Positive number one. Positive number two, 5-year deal for De Ligt. We're now working with Bayern on a final fee. De Ligt, personal terms, contract, done, agreed. Now get a deal done with Bayern Munich. What's going to be the first deal we get done this week? Well, I said to you yesterday, it's going to go off like a bottle of pop this week. We've got Dan Ashworth. That's one deal done already. De Ligt's getting very close. We know Xerxes very close. We could have those 3 deals I said yesterday done by the end of the week, which would be crazy. And when I say deal done, I don't mean the shirt holding up, because De Ligt and Xerxes are in the Euros. What I mean is, here we go is official as far as we're concerned in this community, because that means it's going to happen. We've done it with Lindelof before. Here we go. And then 2 weeks later, pending a medical. So I think that's what will happen. We're going to move quick. You know, I'm buzzing here. I'm getting goosebumps. Like, this is a new Manchester United. Whether you want to get on board or whether you want to stay back and say, I'm not so sure, I'm telling you now with all my heart and all the negativity of the last few years and all the transfer windows that we've been disappointed in, this feels different. And it feels different because it is different. There's something different going on. And, you know, I actually think that when it comes to transfer windows from now on, July the 1st is where it starts. With this PSR and FFP, I think June is where you get clubs who are desperate trying to raise that money that they need to get done, like Everton and Villa and Newcastle. I think the real business gets done now. I think this is where Manchester United really start going to work from July the 1st in the next 2 to 3 weeks. And I think Arsenal will do the same. I think clubs that are prepared will wait to July the 1st. I'm also interested to see what's going to happen with Rabiot. But I think where we are now, Dan Ashworth in place, 5-year deal for De Ligt. We'll get a transfer fee done with Bayern Munich. Xerxes, I expect to be announced any time as well. That would be a very good first week, De Ligt and Xerxes, if I'm being honest. But Agate could happen very, very quickly as well. And that would be a fantastic start. And if we can get a centre-back, a midfielder and a striker done in the next few days, it means you can sit back a little bit on your second centre-back, on your right-back, on your winger, on your left-back. You know, it just gives you a little bit of breathing space to get some players out. And as Paul Lucas, our member, says, structure in. This is what it's all about. What about Branthwaite, says Mags? I think with Branthwaite, you know, that deal, we're not out of it yet, but potentially that could run on and on. Let me just read some of these super chats. I want to talk about the Bayern Munich transfer fee, as well, and I want to talk about De Ligt as a player, because I just detect that there's a lot of people talking about De Ligt who don't actually watch De Ligt. You know, he's slow bollocks is just nonsense. It really is. He's not slow. Like, he's just not Saliba fast. But he ain't slow. He's not Harry Maguire slow. I'm not having any of that at all. Mark, is there a place to learn how FFP works, says Sanel? Just Google it, mate. I mean, you don't really need to understand loads of it. Our wage bill's very high. Our revenue's here. So you can only operate between what your wage and transfer spend is and what your revenue is. And you need to reduce that and increase that to spend more. That's basically it. INEOS have been very vocal about being in charge of football side of United, keeping Ten Hag transfers, coaching changes, all signed off by them. Fans and media need to remember that going forward. Patrick's right. Anything to do with transfers, the manager, sales, is INEOS. Those sprint stats are true. Bundesliga and Premier League publish those stats. They are publicly available. He would be ranked 280th in the Premier League for top sprints, as Rory. But Rory, look, Rory, I respect you. You put a lot of good comments in over the year. But what's a sprint stat? That, you know, I've seen we had a year where our quickest player on a sprint stat, I can't remember who it was, but you'd have been stunned. You know, flat speed, I'm not bothered about. Like, it doesn't mean you're slow just because you know your slowest sprint is you're talking about straight sprinting. He is not slow. I don't care where you've got him ranked in sprint stats. He's not slow. I've seen this guy play football many times over the last 6 years, and he is not a player that gets exposed for pace like Harry Maguire does. He is not a player that turns like a bloody dustbin lorry and has a beep, beep, beep noise. He plays in a high line, Rory. Now, you can moan about sprint speed, but he actually has and does all his career play in teams that play with a high line and possession football. So this myth that he can't play in a high line, he's done it all his bloody career. So, you know, and also, I've explained to you this before. I used to play centre-back quite a lot. And I'm not particularly quick, but it's about anticipation. It's about reading the game. Martinez isn't particularly quick. It's about reading the game. It's about knowing when to drop. It's about having a good sweeper keeper behind. I mean, look, when I used to play at centre-back, sometimes I'd be left on my own. You know, we need a goal. And I'd say to my centre-back who was next to me, who was like bloody Vidic, I'd say, get up. We need a goal. Get up. And he'd be like, but you're left one-on-one. And I'd turn around to my keeper and I'd say, we're trying to get back in this game. I want you stood 5 metres outside your box. Because if that ball goes over my head, you're going to run forward and stop the striker. So this, you know, it's not, I'm not worried about De Ligt and pace. I think people think we're getting a Dutch Harry Maguire and they're just not watching him. His whole career is high-line football, possession football, pressing football. Maguire wants to play on the edge of the box. They're nothing like each other. With all these positive changes, we still need to be patient, says Drub. Can they add performances clause into the contract, says Keel? Doesn't it concern you that no one else is in for De Ligt? I know we want to be positive, but the shine of De Ligt has come off since he left Ajax, says Big Z. No one else is in for Xerxes apart from AC Milan. No one else is in for Branthwaite apart from us. No one else is in for Agate at the moment apart from us. No one else was in for Bruno apart from us. So, no, there's your answer. The centre-back signing is key as it could spark a domino effect where Maguire or Lindelof move away, says Glenn. Would Bayern take Sancho, says Anthony Murray. I don't know about that. And also, De Ligt is class. You don't play for Ajax, Juventus and Bayern if you're crap. It also puts pressure on Everton as we don't need to buy Branthwaite. Look, in relation to De Ligt, I think there's a couple of brilliant points in there. You've got Harry Maguire and you've got Victor Lindelof, who both weren't in the Euros, who are both around 30 now, who are both thinking, am I playing football and will I be playing in the World Cup? Both of them need to play first team football. There's no point being sat on the bench at 30. And if they see Man United sign a centre-back this week, absolutely brilliant point. It's one thing United trying to buy centre-backs. It's another thing seeing Man United buy a centre-back and be looking at another one. Because you know Martinez is starting under Ten Hag. And then he's brought 2 centre-backs in and you go, shit, I'm 3rd, 4th, 5th choice centre-back here. I need to go. And you're right, and it's right. I think it's a big difference buying De Ligt with Eric and INEOS leading then, for example, Ollie and the Glazers. De Ligt grew up with Eric. This will work, says Elliot. Mark Morning, says Tom, was worried Ashworth would never get done or just take another year. What's next after De Ligt, Xerxes and other coaches, says Tom. Well, let's not forget, we've got Hack and Van Nistelrooy coming in this week as well. Although I'm not classing them as the 3 deals. I think we will get 3 deals done this week. Ashworth, and then it looks like De Ligt and Xerxes, but, you know, maybe Agate as well. Trey says, Rory doesn't need to be lightning quick. Van Dijk is probably the best in the game, and he's not super fast. Yeah, well, look, I think in relation to De Ligt, 5-year deal. Who knows what the wages are going to be? I acknowledge that. I'm nervous about a 5-year deal. I'm nervous about what the wages will be. It's a very big commitment. But I think the big thing I'm looking at here, we know that Xerxes has a release clause for 34 million quid. There's no wiggle room there, and we're getting 34 million pounds for Xerxes, a good deal. You know, it's whether it's the right price or whether it's a bit cheaper, it's a release clause. De Ligt, I'm looking at that fee, and you know, Bayern Munich have rinsed us a few times. They have. I'm looking at that, and I'm saying to Bayern Munich, go forth and prosper. You know, I wouldn't give him 40 million. I wouldn't give him 40. I'd be trying to push it down to 30, if I'm being honest, because they need to sell. They 100% need to sell. They've got a guy with 3 years left on his contract on 250 grand a week, and he's got 3 years left on his deal. We're giving him a 5-year deal. We're giving him God knows what wages, and then we're going to give Bayern a fair price. I'd say to Bayern, you need to sell this player. Who's going to buy him? No one in Italy can afford him. No one in Spain will want him because Barcelona can't afford him either, and Real Madrid aren't looking at a centre-back. You can't afford to keep him because you're trying to buy 2 centre-backs. And in England, nobody's looking at him either. So we're not giving you 45 million quid. We're not giving you 40 million quid. We'll give you 30 million quid because we've got to cover his wages for the next 5 years as well. So I'm going to be very interested what the wages are and what we pay Bayern Munich. Because if we pay wages of 250 grand a week and we give Bayern Munich 45 million, I think we've been done. I think we have been done. So I'm very interested to see what the transfer fee is with Bayern, because we're taking off a huge wage that they've got to pay for 3 years on a player that they desperately want to sell. So, this is where it's twist and turn time. This is twist and squeeze time. And it'll be interesting to see what happens with that. Breaking Austin says, nothing to say as such. Long-time watcher and want to give something back in return for your endless coverage of United. Cheers, Marks, is Breaking Austin. You're an absolute legend, mate. Could the 5-year deal be FFP related, Marks, is Patrick Lynch. Great point again. I mean, look at what Chelsea have done. If you look at Chelsea, when they bought these players on 7-year contracts and it's £70 million, it's £10 million a year. The longer the contract, the more you spread the transfer fee. So if you give Bayern Munich £40 million for Ligt, you're actually paying £8 million a year. So the longer the contract, the better it is in relation to the transfer fee. That's the contradiction. On the other hand, the longer the contract and the bigger the wage, the more you're going to have to pay them that wage for longer if they flop. So yeah, it swings and roundabouts. Of course it is. Nothing to say. Lovely, lovely, lovely. No one was in for Sancho Maguire. What's your point? Says the Will. Yeah, good point. I think it's a big difference buying De Ligt. Yeah, okay. On the player himself, I think people are focusing in on the wrong things. His injury record isn't actually that bad. It could go one of two ways. It could be absolutely fine. Of course, he could get injured. I don't think it particularly looks that bad. The pace thing doesn't worry me at all. And when we compared him on, was it Friday, to, Harry Maguire, Virgil van Dijk, etc., he's nearly as good in the air as Van Dijk and Maguire, who are brilliant in the air. So De Ligt is very, very, very good in the air, and he's better than them with the ball at his feet. So we're buying a very aerial dominant centre-back, which you need with Martinez, who obviously is 5'10". So he's very, very, very good in the air. He's very, very good with the ball at his feet. In fact, he's better than Varane by a very long way with the ball at his feet. I liked Varane. There's no doubt that Varane was our best centre-back. But Varane, when you look at him, watch him with the eye test or even check him with the stats, progressive passing, through the lines, taking the ball and carrying it, not able to do it. De Ligt is like Martinez. He will play between the lines and he will even take the ball into the midfield if he needs to do that. So we will have two centre-backs who are very, very good on the ball, who can carry the ball if they need to, and that will give us an absolute balance there. He's also very, very good in the air. Look, pace-wise, I don't really understand it. Martinez isn't particularly quick, but he's not slow. De Ligt isn't super fast, but he's not slow. And then you've got a sweeper keeper, which I think people are really missing here. Look, I said yesterday, Southgate's a complete and utter prat. England are playing all-out attack in the second half against Slovakia, and he keeps Kyle Walker on the right wing when he's got the best attacking right back in the world on the bench in Trent Alexander-Arnold, and he didn't use him. Last season, Onana didn't do that well, but we didn't play a high line. You've got Martinez and De Ligt, who both play high line, and then you've got a goalkeeper that wants to sweep. I'm not worried about the ball over the top, because we've got three players that want to play a high line and want to play with the ball at their feet. And I think it will make a massive difference for us. And let's not forget, if we buy De Ligt, we're buying another centre-back as well. People assume it'll be Martinez and De Ligt. It could be Martinez and Todibo. It could be Branthwaite and De Ligt. It could be, Martinez and Branthwaite. We've got Cambuala there as well. So I'm not worried about it. For me, I'm not the director of football. I'm not the coach. I want things to be taken out of my head and hands that we can get behind and support as fans. There will be mistakes. 30% of any transfers fail. But what we did want and what we do not want is a situation where you've got Golden Glove, established leader in goal, and you let him walk out the door for nothing to spend £50 million on Onana. That would never happen with the regime that we've got now, because they'd look at it and go, financially, that's a huge risk. And do we need to do that now when we need to look at somewhere else? We're not doing those sort of deals anymore. We're doing deals that everybody agrees with. And if everybody agrees on De Ligt and it flops, it's not Ten Hag's fault. It's not Ashworth's fault. It's not Sir Jim's fault. It's a collective. And this is what Man City do. This is what Arsenal do. And for too long, we haven't done it. It all gets thrown on the manager, and we've got a committee now, and I'm very, very excited about it. I suppose the question is, how quick can it get done? it's moving very, very quickly with Ligt. Like 5-year deal, personal terms, done. We're now talking to Bayern Munich, who will want to get it done quickly because they want to move on and do deals themselves. So, look, Xerxes and De Ligt are both part of the Dutch squad. That's the only delay I can see, because I can really see, here we go, complete agreement on both those players this week for Manchester United. I really can. I watch him cover for Kimmich against Vinicius Jr. in the second leg. I understand the scepticism, but he is not slow, says Larry. Let's say Ten Hag wants De Ligt and then Dan Ashworth says no because of the wages or the price. Would you be happy with that, says Ahmed. Let's say Ten Hag and INEOS want Branthwaite and INEOS decide to walk away because of Everton's transfer fee. It's exactly the same. I think the mindset needs to change. De Ligt wants, Ten Hag wants De Ligt and then Dan Ashworth says no. What are you talking about? It's a collective. It's a collective. We will have to say no to some deals. Of course we will. It's not a Ten Hag signing and it's not an INEOS signing. It's a collective. And I think some people just don't understand what we are now. There is no, I want that player, just go and get that player. But we don't really want him, just do it. It's a collective. And it'll be a collective decision to walk away. If Bayern Munich say we want £50 million and that's it, and then, somebody rings up Ten Hag or they get in a boardroom and say, look, we're going to have to walk away, then Ten Hag will have to understand that. And the story at the weekend was that it was INEOS want De Ligt anyway. I mean, Ten Hag's very happy with it, but INEOS want him. It came out from the Times. So, Kieran says the same doubters saying De Ligt is too slow are the same ones saying that Martinez will be too short. Styles make matches, mate. Look, it's the sort of I don't watch football outside of the Premier League nonsense that we got with Martinez. Carragher said it. He's too slow. Carragher won't have watched an Ajax game in his bloody life. He wouldn't be going to Amsterdam to watch football. So it will be the same with De Ligt. They'll go, I think he's just a bit too... I guarantee somebody in the media or on the radio will say, he's not an upgrade on Maguire. They're basically the same player. Because they haven't watched De Ligt. And we're used to that. But our fan base, we should be better than that. Martinez replaced De Ligt at Ajax. They both played brilliantly there under Ten Hag. Having them both together here could work wonders for getting the manager's style of play to work, says Noah. Breaking Austin, welcome to the members club as well. Just a quick one as well, because I want to talk about a few other bits this morning. What was it I was going to talk about? 5-year deal, Rasmus. Rasmus gave an interview after the exit from Denmark and was asked about Ten Hag staying. He said really happy about it. So we'd already seen that from Mainu over the weekend as well. So players very happy. The new kit's out. That was what I was going to say as well. The new Manchester United kit's out. Now that might not rock your boat as much as you might think, but new kit out for Manchester United. Garnacho, Rasmus and Mainu, the main picture, which is great. I think they've picked the right players there for the vision for the future. I don't really read too much into who's wearing the shirt because we've had people wearing the shirt who then get sold, but it all feeds into the same thing. New shirt, new players, new football. I feel like today is the day it starts. Obviously, the transfer window opens in June. The season ends at the end of May. And you do have that whole month of June where what's going on. And we have spoken to a lot of players in June, so we can't say that we ignored June completely. But it was always going to be the case that July 1st would be when shirts would be held up and deals would actually get done. And that's exactly what's happening. No one should have higher salary than Bruno in the team. That's very important with contracts, says Roger. I think on new players, you're right, Roger, but let's also not forget that Bruno Fernandes is not the biggest earner in that Manchester United sign. It's Marcus Rashford by a very long way. So, you might still get players that come in and say they want to earn, that amount of money as well. But we can't be going anywhere near that. Of course, we've got to be very, very realistic about what we're offering. But look, I don't want any new player to be coming in on more than 200 grand a week, really, to be honest. The direct quote from Rasmus, by the way, about Ten Hag: I'm very happy. He's a very good coach. I loved working with him this year, and I'm looking forward to many more years working with him, which, I think you're going to get that from Garnacho, Mainu and Rasmus, of course. There was some talk of Sancho to Arsenal and Man City. Complete and utter nonsense, by the way. Pletty has just done an update in the last half an hour as well, told that Man United and Bayern are now in contact about a permanent deal for De Ligt. So that's the stage we're at now. We've done the personal terms with De Ligt. We're now moving on to getting a fee done with Bayern Munich. So it's moving really quick. I mean, I knew that this would have to get updated every day, but that's not right at the moment. I'd put De Ligt up as certainly a 9, and I'd put Ugarte as an 8. I think this De Ligt deal is, hotter than the sun, and it's a race between him and Xerxes as to who gets here we go first, because that is, De Ligt and what's happening there is absolutely moving at a very, 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 very fast pace. Ugarte is moving as well. There's no doubt about that. Ugarte is definitely moving fast, and I think that there's no two ways about it that all three of those players could be Man United players by the time we're back in training next Monday. To be honest, I'd be very surprised. I mean, I don't like putting days on it because we've never been in this world before. Normally we know we're going to sign a player and it still takes 3 weeks. We are in a new regime here, so it's unfair to say by the end of the week we'll have signed Ugarte, De Ligt and Xerxes, but I'd be very surprised if we haven't got a here we go on 2 of them. And the amazing thing is all 3 of them are not actually going to be able to hold the shirt up for a couple of weeks because they won't probably go on tour. It'll be touch and go. I don't know what Uruguay are doing in the Copa America because I haven't been keeping an eye on it, but obviously Ugarte is with Uruguay at the moment, and De Ligt and Xerxes are with the Dutch. So they certainly won't be rocking up to Carrington next week to start pre-season training. They're going to have to go and have their holidays, but United certainly moving very, very quickly on them. Larry says, I don't care about transfers anymore. The players I used to be excited about never worked out. The less excited I am about a transfer, the better, says Larry. Milan, welcome to the Members Club. And the thing I like about these signings as well is that I sort of agree with Larry in a way. I think we've gone through so many years of, this player's going to make us win the league, like Paul Pogba or Jadon Sancho, Bruno Fernandes. This is going to be transformative. And I think we've lived through the years now where we know that's not the case. Nearly 20,000 watching this morning, by the way. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe and share the video. This is how it's going to be now every day. 10 o'clock we're live, 8 o'clock we're live, although it's 7 o'clock tonight because for the Euros. But we'll be reacting to any big news, so make sure you subscribe and get involved. This is where the summer starts, and this is the place to be. But I think with regards to what Larry said about the signings, I think we're all a bit realistic now, aren't we? We've been disappointed and let down so many times about signings. We also know that you don't buy Kylian Mbappe at Man United and win the league next year. This is going to be a brand new project, and it's going to take patience. And that's why I like some of these signings, because Ugarte, if we sign Ugarte, people will look at us and go, who's he? If we buy Xerxes, people will laugh and go, it's hardly Haaland. If we buy De Ligt, people will go, it's not like they're buying, the best centre-back in the world. But I like all 3 signings because they're all under 25, they're all hungry, and they've all got points to prove. But more importantly, they're system players. They're players that bring something to the way that we want to play. When I look at United last season, the players that really stood out, Garnacho, Rasmus, Dalot, Bruno, and Mainu, they all stood out because of their intensity, their willingness to learn, and their availability and their talent. And I think if we can bring in 3 or 4 other players that have that hunger and, desire, I don't actually want a player that's about what the name is on the back of the shirt. I want players that are about what's the badge on the front of the shirt. And I think those players last season, the Brunos, the Dalots, the Mainus, the Højlunds, the Garnachos, are very much about the name on the front of the shirt. And I think with De Ligt, with Ugarte, with Xerxes, I think I see the same thing again. Players that are going to come in and, work for the badge. And that's the first thing we've got to do. People talk about winning the Premier League, challenging Man City and Arsenal, but the first thing we've got to do is put a team on the pitch that will play for 38 games a season in the Premier League for 90 minutes. Consistency. And to do that, you've got to build a team first. So for me, I'm not really bothered. And I'm like Larry, I'm not looking at the name and going, that's going to be transformative. I'm looking at the collective. I'm looking at the long term. I'm looking at the structure. And It's all about the structure. And I think that is what I see with these signings. You know, one of my mates was messaging me laughing about Xerxes, going, he's a load of shit. You know, you shouldn't be signing Xerxes. You should be getting Ivan Toney. He's got goals in him. Ivan Toney, he's the guy to go and get. And I'm like, yeah, but Ivan Toney wants to play every single minute of every single game. I think what we're looking for is a personality signing as well. Ivan Toney's very, very good, and he could be a good signing for United, but is it the right profile of player at the right price with the right, you know, hunger and the right, you know, attitude? I'll trust the club on this. You can guarantee we've looked at Toney, and if INEOS and Ten Hag have decided he's not the guy, I trust them because I think they know what's needed at the football club. And as I said, I think they took a long time on the Ten Hag decision. It was the right decision, and ever since then, we seem to be making very, very good decisions about who we're talking to. I think it's going to be very interesting who we're letting go as well. You know, I think there's a few players that, you know, the Casemiros of this world, the Lindelofs, the Aaron Wan-Bissakas, the Harry Maguires, and I think they're going to be looking at the situation and going, do I try and hang around in this new world, or is it time for me to go? And I think that will be very interesting. Hi, Mark. Can't wait for Agate. Here we go, says Rianto. I think Agate is very similar to Ligt. You know, I can't sit here and guarantee they're going to be a success, but I think that they are the right type of signings to make. No one should have a high salary than Bruno, says Roger. Thank you very much for that. Hi, Mark. United is changing now. They are working on multiple deals at the same time, unlike when Murta was in charge of transfers, says AP. And Mark, would it make a difference on Everton's stance if Branthwaite asked for a transfer, says Alan? I think look, it's a news show. Shadow says that City are bidding for Branthwaite. We won't be able to compete if that happens. And to be honest with you, if City came in for Branthwaite and got Branthwaite, we just have to walk away and say, you know, we can't get involved in a bidding war with a club that, for 115 reasons, is able to blow us out of the water because they've got more ready cash than we've got. But, you know, I don't know whether City are bidding for Branthwaite or not. It matters not to me because we walking away from that deal isn't actually the end of the world because we were already talking about potentially walking away anyway. So I don't see it as a massive concern if the Branthwaite deal doesn't go ahead, because Branthwaite is a player that we want, but Everton didn't sell us Branthwaite before the 30th of June. And I think this is really important update on Branthwaite, and I was waiting to do this till July the 1st. We put a bid in for Branthwaite at 35 million 3 weeks ago. And we did that because Everton needed to raise money before the 30th of June. Everton didn't take that bid and raise the money elsewhere by selling youngsters to, you know, Chelsea or wherever they did. So Everton didn't do that deal with us. They didn't need to sell Branthwaite to us to do that deal. On July the 1st, it's a new football year. So Everton didn't need to sell us Branthwaite. And now they'll sit there and go, they'll double down that they want a good fee for him. So the Branthwaite deal is more difficult now than it was last week because we're now in a new financial year. And I think United basically said to Everton, look, you need to raise money. There's the money. And Everton didn't bite at it. And they might be offended by it, actually, because they might think we were trying to take the piss. So Branthwaite may not be a deal that we can do anymore. I still think he's very high on United's list. We bid for him. It was the first bid we put in for any player this summer. But we might not be able to get Branthwaite because another club might come in, or Everton might say, we're not moving, we want 60 million. And anything over 50 million for Branthwaite is too much for us at the moment. We can't afford to do that. Can't see anyone joining, not expecting to be first choice, says Robert McCormack. I can. I really can. I think Xerxes will join, knowing he's probably not going to be first choice. I don't think Agate is the sort of player that would come in, demanding to be first choice. I actually disagree with you, Robert. I think that again comes down to mentality. I don't think we're buying players who have it in their contract that you're starting every game. I think you come into this football club and you work hard. Who do you think Ruud will have the most impact on between our strikers? Is Space? I think he'll have an impact on everybody. I think he'll have impact on the wingers as well. We are only signing foreign players. Isn't there a limit on how many foreign players you can have in your squad, says George? Well, there is, but it's a very easy answer, George. Martial and Varane have gone. That's 2 foreign players gone. So if you replace them with Ligt and Xerxes, you're only where you were. Agate coming in, Amrabat goes out. So I think with regards to signing foreign players, you can name a foreign player that's leaving the other way. So at the moment, I don't think it's a massive problem. I think it would be in our interests to try and buy at least one British player for the homegrown rule, which is probably why we're looking at Branthwaite. But I don't know what other alternatives there is. The Dutch Revolution is hitting hard. Total football, free-flowing football. Hopefully we find our style of play next season in the plan, says Ahmed. Well, yeah, I mean, I saw somebody before saying another Dutch player. If you have a manager that wants to play a certain way, why give him Scott McTominay, Victor Lindelof, Harry Maguire? Like, they don't play the way that Ten Hag wants to play. If you've got Jose Mourinho at the club, he needs certain types of players. You know, Matic came in, etc. We need to give whoever the manager is the players that they need to be successful. And you will get the Pratt Brigade. You know, there'll be certain journalists talking about, oh, another Dutch player, this, that, and the other. But we've got a manager that plays a certain brand of football. And we need to bring in players that suit that brand of football. And also, we've got a dressing room that's been really toxic. So we need to bring players in that the manager can trust. Which is why we're bringing in new coaches as well. Rebrief Branthwaite. We should do a real let him run down his contract and get him on a free, or hopefully use that as leverage in any negotiations, says Rory C. 82% of you would be very happy with a De Ligt signing, by the way. Thank you very much for that. Make sure you smash a like on the video. I'm just going to have a quick check because we've spoken about Ashworth, we've spoken about De Ligt, we've spoken about what's happening with a few other players, but I just want to check because there's so much news coming in, and I think it's going to be a very, very busy day and week ahead. But I don't want to miss something that I feel that I've missed from the news this morning. Outgoings, somebody was talking about there. Well, look, when I said to you yesterday, 3 deals this week, doesn't mean necessarily 3 signings. It could be a deal outgoing as well. And I do think that you know, July the 1st is a really interesting day because there will be players that, you know, they can't be on holiday thinking they're part of United's plans. And look, let me use an example of what I'm trying to say. If you're Victor Lindelof, you're not in the Euros, you've been on holiday, you know United are looking at centre-backs, you probably made the decision you want to go, your agent hasn't been sat on holiday as well, he's been making calls. You might have been speaking to Galatasaray. You might have been speaking to Sporting Lisbon. Who knows, right? Probably not, because he played for Benfica, didn't he? But let's say, for example, Lindelof knows he's going, he wants to go, and his agent's been talking to clubs. Those clubs may well have said what everyone else has done. We can't do anything until the first week of July because we're waiting for the new football financial year. So I expect that there will be things happening with outgoings that will sort of take you by surprise because they have been being worked on, but they're being kept back for early July as well. I think a lot of clubs now don't really want to do anything until July. And I think we'll start to see things happening now that, because it's the same in Italy for definite, and I think it's the same in Spain. The football financial year is the same. It starts again in July. I remember it happening Inter Milan a few years ago. We're in massive trouble and they needed to do stuff by June the 30th. So I think we will see a very, very, very active next 2 or 3 weeks. And that, you know, the only reason I say 3 weeks is because 3 weeks is when we go on the tour. Doesn't mean that things won't be happening on tour either. Doesn't mean things won't be happening through August, but it's gonna definitely move up now. Mark, I've seen the kit release video pictures today. Noticed that Rashford doesn't feature in any of them. Do you think there's anything in this? Says Biffy. No. I appreciate that because I thought somebody would ask that question. I haven't seen all the pictures. I'm sure Rashford is in some of them. In fact, Mandy says he is wearing a long sleeve one. So yeah, I haven't seen all the pictures. So maybe Rashford is in some of them. But even if he wasn't, Schweinsteiger was in Bayern Munich's kit, new kit, the season we bought him. So it doesn't mean anything. Whether they're in it or they're not in it, it doesn't mean anything. If they're not in any, it might mean something's happening. But even if they're in it, doesn't mean they're necessarily staying. So a lot of people in the chat are saying he's definitely in them. So yeah, I don't think Rashford's going to go anywhere. Do I think he should go somewhere? Look, if somebody makes a good offer, I think he should, yeah. But, you know, looking at Kvaratskhelia, I think PSG will go for him. I don't think they're going to go anywhere near Rashford. The big thing with Rashford is, if you want Rashford to go, nobody wants him. So he can't go. It's one thing being... Look, INEOS are open to selling Rashford. Like, he is not in the position he was before. Like, INEOS are open to selling Rashford, 100%. But they're open to selling a lot of players. The only players they don't want to sell are really Garnacho, Rasmus, and Mainu. They don't want to sell them, but they are open to... Look, they were open to Bruno a few weeks ago. So they are open to selling Marcus Rashford. The problem in selling Rashford for INEOS is there will be no offer. No club is interested in signing Rashford, so he won't be sold. So that's the end of that. INEOS found a loophole for the Todibo deal, says Lee. De Ligt, Xerxes and Agate is a good start down the spine of the team. Another centre-back and a centre midfielder should be a priority, says Milan. Casemiro will leave too as well. That's another foreign player, says Space. Yeah, I'm not worried about the foreigners rule. It's a good question, but I'm not worried about it because we're letting a lot of foreign players go. Casemiro could be another one, like you say, but certainly I think, well, Martial and Varane, that's 3. I think Amrabat goes, that's 4. So you can sell. Lindelof is probably going to go as well, that's 5. So I think 5 foreign players, Donny, 6. So there's Eriksen, 7. We're going to sell a lot of foreign players. So we can buy 5 foreign players because we're probably going to let 6 or 7 go. So yeah, I think that will happen. 100%. Alan Casey says, what about De Ligt and Jared as the centre-backs with Martinez as a holding midfielder? I think that's more of a fan theory than a reality, mate. I've not really seen any viable... Look, Ten Hag refused to do it. So I don't really see that working. Someone in the chat said De Ligt's not a high line defender. Tell me you've never watched football without telling me you don't watch football. I mean, if De Ligt's not a high line defender, I mean, I genuinely worry what people are willing to type and put out there. Like, De Ligt is not a high line defender. Where do you think he's been playing for the last 7 years? Stoke, Ajax, the Netherlands national team, Juventus, and Bayern Munich. The only one of those I would say might not be a high line defence is Juventus because it's Italian football. But even then, Juventus are a team that want to go forward. The Dutch national team, Ajax, Bayern Munich have always been high line defences. So, I mean, this is what I mean. People don't like a signing, so they make stuff up. He's now a slow, edge of the box Dutch Harry Maguire. And yet all his career, he's played in a high line. You can't rewrite facts. Like, stop rewriting stuff to make it suit your agenda on a player that we haven't even bought yet. He is a high line defender. He is not as fast as Saliba, but he is not slow like Harry Maguire. So, yeah. Guehi has overperformed in the Euros. How much do you think Palace will ask for him? I'd take him over Branthwaite, says Joseline. Look, Guehi is a player that Man United really, really like. Really, really like. But they're going to struggle to do a deal because they liked him before the Euros and there was probably a deal to be done. He's only got 2 years left on his contract. But, you know, Crystal Palace are going to go, yeah, 60 million. And that's a problem. There we go. 82% of you very happy with De Ligt, 18% not happy with it. So again, it's, look, respect, make your own minds up, but this is the way it's going to be. You know, are you happy with Ten Hag being the manager? I guarantee that'll be about 90% and 10% aren't. We still have this legacy negativity from people that don't want to get on board. They will get on board. Give them a bit of patience. You know, they're just going through the stages of grief of not getting Ten Hag sacked. They will jump on board eventually. There's going to be such an avalanche of positivity over the next 2 weeks that they're not going to be able to not get on board. Maybe they're going to hope we lose to Fulham, but it's just not going to go. That's not the way this game's going to play out. We are moving forward on a project now collectively that is a team of people that want to work together. You know, Ten Hag, Ashworth, Barada, Manchester United in whole want to work together, and they're picking players together. You know, I'm very positive, and I've not always been positive. Sell to Debo to Bolton, then loan him, says Keel. Thank you very much. Look, legends this morning. Very, very busy day today. Keep an eye out. We will be live at 2 o'clock and 7 o'clock. But if anything goes on in between, we'll go live as well. I'm in the Goldbridge Arms for the game between France and Belgium, which means the 7 o'clock show will be in the Goldbridge Arms as well. And we're there for Portugal as well. So 2 big Euros games, loads going on with Man United. Make sure you smash a like and subscribe, by the way. The final thing I want to say to you is I was signing these yesterday, the book. The book is coming out very, very soon. And get your pre-orders in by scanning the QR code or going through the link in the video description and the live chat. I signed about 1,000 books yesterday, so get one of the signed ones while they're available. A lot of them have got little secret messages in. Some of them say, "What a prat," signed by me. But yeah, please, you know, get behind it. Please support it. Can't wait for it to come out. You can order it. If you're not in the UK, you can just get somebody you know to order it in the UK and send it out if you want a signed one. But you can order worldwide on Amazon, the Audible book, etc. Also, if you do buy a book, go through the link or scan the QR code because there's a competition section where you can win a variety of prizes. Some of them are fantastic, like, you know, we want to invite about 30 people to come to the Goldbridge Arms and have a pint and a bit of a, you know, make a night of it. There's all sorts of stuff. So check it out, link in the description, scan the QR code, get your book order in. We're back at 2 o'clock unless something breaks before then. But what I will say is we are in that zone now where things are going to start breaking a lot. Thanks everyone for watching. Take care. I'll see you soon. What percentage would you give us at winning the league? Says the Will. Next season, none. You know, that's not patience, is it, mate? I don't want to hear about winning the bloody league. That'll be the next tactic of people who want to get Ten Hag out. He's got to win the league next year. Bullshit. Bullshit. This is a project now. It's a project. You get on board with it or you don't. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. Legends. I'll speak to you all in a bit. Don't forget to check the book out.